Okay, let's start it off. All right,
Oh yeah,
so
you got source options.
this is the first ever State of the Exile podcast. This is our first episode. It's a pilot. I would like to welcome everybody here. I appreciate you tuning in. Before we get going, I want to thank GGG for providing this awesome game and the endless amount of content that they provide to us, endless amount of builds we can make. Secondly, I'd like to thank Twitch.tv for allowing us to do something like this. You know, Twitch is a great experience. You know, it gets a lot of people's names out there. It's a lot of fun, and people can learn the game via Twitch. So thank you, Twitch. Also, I'd like to thank any mods in the channel for keeping the channel clean. And with that being said, let's get this going. A little bit about ourselves. I'm Zeno Genius. I've been playing all sorts of games most of my life. Played a lot of WoW for 5 to 6 years. I was a top 5 US guild. I switched over to Path of Exile probably full time, on and off, you know, mostly full time though, about a year and a half ago. And I've currently died 3 times. Well, high level characters, I've died 3 times. And so far, Invasion, it's a lot of fun, but it's risk for reward. Maybe just the risk. We also have Hegemony TV in here if you want to tell us about yourself at all, Hedgie.
Hey guys, it's Hegemony. Mostly known for my Batman Witch Wander, level 100. I've currently died in Invasion at level 70 due to alt-tabbing. I made the classic mistake of alt-tabbing and dying to a boss. I'm back at 51, and I'm here to do this podcast and share my thoughts with the new league and the new patch.
And then we have Colby Cheese. If you want to give an introduction to yourself as well, Colby, what do you do?
What do I do? Well, I've always been a big YouTuber. Came over from the league scene, but Path of Exile's got me hooked. And currently doing the hardcore stuff. I actually just had a pretty painful death today, this morning, right before all of this. It was like I think my 4th death, but I was level 72, farming some piety, had like 200 rarity, and yeah, it's the 3rd death to the same boss, little Rain of Arrows, titty biatch. Yeah, so. But yeah, that's what I do. A lot of streaming, a lot of YouTube stuff, and trying to help out the community as much as I can with builds and things like that.
All right, so I'm going to do a brief overview of what we're going to be discussing today. If you noticed on the side there, we each are going to have 20-minute segments. I'll be discussing 2 unique builds around the same skill. Colby Cheese is going to be talking about the passive tree as well as the current meta and invasion and ambush. And Hegemony is going to be discussing the corrupted areas, Vaal gems, Vaal orbs, things along that nature. And at the very end, we're going to do a 20-minute Q&A. And that is a live question and answer session where you guys, at this point in time, until the end of the stream, ask questions. When, for instance, at the very beginning, it's Hegemony's going to be taking off. Colby and I will be taking note of your questions. Any questions in quality. Try to keep them, don't ask dumb questions. Long story short. Anyways, we're going to be keeping track of them, and at the very end, we're going to be, we'll give you a shout out and say your question live and go through from there. So with that being said, the first segment here is going to be Hegemony TV. And go ahead.
Hey guys, what's up? I just wanted to go over some of the stuff, the new content mainly. As far as the Vaal gems and Vaal orbs, what do I think about them and how it's going to affect the economy, the long-term game. The Vaal orbs I found to be quite the stir in the economy because it brought a whole new definition of what perfect means perfect. I mean, I've seen crazy implicit mods like additional curse, leech, elemental leech. I mean, build enabling, overall enhancing of the power of your character. And I think this brings a new economic shift because people are doing these to their legacy items, and their legacy items are worth hundreds of exalts. They're like worth 3 to 5 times more than the original or the post-nerf version. And I've seen like a bunch of legacy combs just being completely nerfed into garbage. 6-link shavs. I mean, the payouts are very, very devastating. Which I think it's good. Overall, it's a good way to get rid of those legacy uniques that everyone seems to complain about, and also I mean, if you like to roll the dice, I mean, you can greatly enhance it. Obviously, I don't recommend this to the the novice gamer or somebody who doesn't have expendable currency. But overall, very, very cool, interesting way to use currency. Not being able to modify it and the devastating drawbacks there are behind it. I think it's a good balance of the game. It does make the game, very. It takes the whole grindiness to another level. Getting your gems to 2020 and then Veil orbing it is definitely cool. As far as the Veil gems, I've seen some cool uses for Veil gems, mainly with stuff like Spectral Throw or Power Siphon. Building around, continually using them as like a clear out, mechanic, and just continuing just to push those levels. However, long term in Merciless, I've still yet to see something that's like successfully used it to where you can sustain it. Obviously, there's a big drawback when you get to higher content levels because you need many more kills to be able to use them. But over the time, I think that GG will find a good balance to make them viable, worth using. I mean, they didn't spend all this time, coding this kind of feature and, just nobody using it. So at the early game, they do have some kind of significant impact. Late game, I mean, we'll see. Probably, future podcasts that we do. We plan on doing these things bi-monthly, so tune in. You'll be able to keep up with, how the game is shifting.
I have a question for you, Hedgie. Do you think
Yeah, go ahead.
on Reddit today I saw the Stone Blazoir with it was corrupted obviously from a Vaal Orb, and it gave +1 to additional curses basically. Do you think the probability or the chance of you having 5 curses is game breaking? I mean, obviously you can now. Or what does this open up, being able to get +1 curse on the neck rather than using something like the Doge's Ring?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's very, very strong. It's definitely something I'm going to be trying. I definitely want the curses. However, when I feel like you get into that pentacurse area, that it's a little excessive. You honestly spend so much time preparing, and it starts to teeter out. I mean, you have your 2 curses that you want to use, enfeeble temp change, and then you have your damage curses. So say you're using something like Searing Bond or Flame Blast, you want to use like Flammability, Vulnerability for the dots, and Elemental Weakness. When you start to add up more curses, it starts to become more group based. So if you're a solo based player, I think the Quad Curse is probably a good place to balance your character at. Anything more, and then you start to run into groups, and then the problem with running in groups is you often take down the packs very, very fast to where you don't even get that Pentacurse action. So I think Quad Curse is in a good spot. After, every curse after that, I think it's a bit much for how fast you're going to end up clearing. But yeah, good question.
Do you also think, I had a question regarding Ambush. With Ambush and all those high quality gems, you were saying earlier that the Vaal Orb, you have to get that level 2020. However, now with the 19% gems, or even you could probably get 20% gems out of those strong boxes, do you think this is going to make the Vaal Orb stronger in Ambush versus Invasion?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. Yeah, that I definitely think is the case. Vaal Orb is definitely a good standard league and new league currency orb. However, we're really, really struggling in Invasion, especially with all the difficulties and the new corrupted areas. Which brings me to my next thing, the corrupted areas. Do I think they're worth it? From my experience, they've been relatively easy, depending upon what boss is inside. It kind of frustrates me that the reward is quite minimal, and the mods. I wish that you could roll the mod on the actual corrupted zone. You know how you guys can dump currency into the lockbox. I wish you could do that with the corrupted zone, because it's more often than not you'll get like a temp chains, or a minus 24 max or something along those lines, where it's not worth doing. And honestly, good content is the content that's you're going to make the decision of, this is very, very risky, but the reward is very, very good. So overall, the corrupted areas, they're very interesting. It's definitely a new dynamic to the game. However, I do think that they can improve it with maybe rolling currency on it, maybe changing the zone, because they're not that common to begin with. And this one is also going to lead into my next thing that I wanted to cover, which is the risk and reward factor. When I look at the leagues and the league design, I see ambush, where I see all these crazy boxes. You know, every item that comes out of this box comes fully linked, or you're going to get a crap load of gems or a crap load of maps, and they're all going to be like same type of quality. This is insane. Like, it's an insane perk. It's almost like this kind of perk should be in Invasion, because we're the ones that are constantly sending our characters to standard leagues, and you know, the rip factor and the economy is very hard to get hit the ground running. I feel like the risk is very, very high in Invasion, and the reward is much too much in Ambush. I'm not trying to take away stuff that's relatively fun, but I feel like the item progression in Ambush leagues are going to get to be crazy, and I would expect to see 50 kill Atsiri much sooner than Invasion. Honestly, feel like the Atsiri kills, I mean, we're lucky to see 50 people that kill it by the end of the 4 month. I mean, it's getting to that degree where our league is very, very non-rewarding. It is very fun. I'm not saying that this is not fun. I just think that Grindy Gear can balance it out to where one of those deadly, devastating, unique bosses, they can have different kinds of rarity on them and make them much more rewarding. I think if they do that, it's a step in the right direction. But overall, the rewards are definitely lacking. I mean, you guys have seen the rip factor. It's just to the max, and the economy is having a very, very hard time just to even get going, because the amount of deaths and contributions to standard that we're seeing.
I will say though, the whole risk for reward, it's like a double-edged sword. Yes, you're not getting reward. However, it's keeping the economy low. At the end of Nemesis, everything kind of snowballed out of control in terms of Exalt prices. But right now, everything's got a nice cheap price on it, and I foreseeing it staying that way for the most part because of the risk reward factor. I do think that they need to make at least bosses drop at least one rare, because they are a pain in the butt, some of them, and the reward might need to be a little bit higher. But at the same time, it seems like Ambush is more of a crafting league, whereas Invasion is definitely like a super challenge league. That's my
I mean,
take on it.
it's the trick of balancing. Like, you implement all this content, but if players are choosing to skip it, then you are not successful at implementing that new content. Like, it's got to be like a decision that people actually try, instead of, oh, this guy is too hard, let's just skip it, let's remake the instance. That's not very good content. Good content is, oh my god, that boss is scary, are we equipped to handle it? Let's do it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be worth our time. And it really pains me to see when people are just like, that person is not worth my time, I'm just going to run around it. And that's not a very huge feat, just to be able to run around something, but yeah, it's definitely something that needs a little attention to spice up the league. And yeah, do you have any words to say, Colby, about any of those things?
Yeah, the bosses themselves are pretty fun overall, and I like them. They are extremely overtuned. I mean, some of them feel like they are extremely overtuned. Mostly the one that brings down the little titty biatch that brings down the rain. That's probably the most dangerous one that I've seen personally. I've died to it 3 times. I've seen other people die to it. There's really no time to react. There's another one that throws out traps and does freezing pulse. And if you don't see the boss and she's already thrown out a trap, you can pretty much get one-shot by that one. Those are the 2 that stand out the most to me as being a little bit overtuned. If they can just like bring those down a little bit, at least outside of maps, I think that would be nice, because the other ones are pretty tough and they can kill you very quickly, but you're not going to get one shot off screen by them. And then some other little small changes, like the little Asukati guy not looking like a mob, or not looking like a rare boss. So there's a few changes. Overall, I don't think that it's too